Dr. Hassan is here. I'm recording this video to show you how to access Python through Google Colab. So go to Google and type in Google Colab. Then the search result will show you Google Colab here. So click on it. So you would get into a page like this. Before you get into here, it may ask you to log in. So let me just to try, I sign out of mine and then seeing whether it asks me for a login or not. So Google Colab, then I click here. Yeah, it did not ask me for any login. But again, if I want to run this, if I want to get a result from it, for instance, if I click here to run this code, it can ask me the sign in required. So please sign in. So if you get into this page, sign in here with your Gmail. So usually it's going to be your Hotmail. Then you can type in your password. Okay, I got into this page. In this page, you can create a new notebook. So let's just see if I create a new notebook. I'm going to call it for today's name. Okay, the new notebook is here, up here. I can just change the name of it. I'm going to call this one ENGR 125. So once you create this file, what content you can put in this file? This file called a notebook. Again, generally talking, Jupyter Notebook was one of those. Now, in a notebook, what you could do is that you could actually look like your paper notebook, right? You can have a text or you can have a code. So I can have a text up here. In this, you can actually move them around. If you select them, you can bring them up and down. So if you click on this guy, you can move it up. I'm going to move it up here. This is a new section. I'm going to call this new section. This is going to be Introduction to Python. So everything that you have in a document processing, you can have here. For instance, you can change, you can make this bold, you can make a lot of different changes. You can make the formatting, you can use different headings for it. So all these characteristics are already here. You can add picture to it. Everything that you have in a Word document, you can have here. So I'm gonna click and delete this thing from here. So I want to say that in this notebook, we will explore different Okay, you can see everything that I type in, it would come up here. Then the beauty of it, as I told you, you can actually add pictures to it. You can have a much longer discussion if you want. So you can add text to it. That's the beautiful thing. We don't have this thing in MATLAB or other software where you can add comment to it. You can create a different explanation to it. In the next block, I have the code block. So if you want to add a code, you can simply click on the top, plus code, you can add the code. So let's start with something very basic, playing around, and then after we got comfortable, we can actually do an actual code. So for now, I'm just looking to do some computation with it. I'm going to say a is equal to 2 times 3. If I run this, nothing will show up, so I'm going to say print A. So let's click here. So you can run it. So as you can see, you can run it line by line. You can run every block of code. In this instance, I say A is equal to 2 times 3 and then print A. It gives me the result for A. If I say A is equal to 2 times 3 to the power of 4, and I do that again. So let me just make it like this. The answer doesn't make sense because 3 to the power of 4 is not, the answer is not going to be 14, right? So you have to use different functions. That's where we get stuck with Python. Like for instance, if I put 2 times, let me just put 2 times cosine of 2, for instance. If I run this, give me an error, because you can see here the cosine is not defined in Python. So I need to bring a library to define this. So how we import different libraries in Python? There are a couple of libraries that we work on them. One of them is, so let me just give you a quick libraries, give you an overview of the quick libraries that we use. The library that we use is NumPy is one of them. NumPy used for computation. Any calculation that we have, you can see NumPy is come for number or something like that. Is like NumPy, it stands for Python. So we use NumPy a lot for any sort of computation. Later on we use Panda. Panda used for when you want to import files or export files. So this is used for importing files. We use another library called TensorFlow. That's going to be next week. We use a library. This is use it for machine learning. And we use another called Matplot. Okay, I'm not even exactly sure about what was the spelling of this, but this is going to use for plot. You can use Plotly as well. So this is the libraries that we are focusing on them in this course. If you need more library, you can simply import them. Let me just to show you how you import libraries to Python. This is a web-based, so it's very easy. You don't need to install anything on your computer. You can say import NumPy, and that's it. You can see here import NumPy as NP. I can use either of this. So let me just to show you what's the difference between this. Import NumPy, and then I'm going to say here, instead of using cosine, I'm going to say numpy.cosine. Now it knows that it is cosine, needs to go to NumPy library and then pick it from there. And then give me the answer. That's how it works. I can say, like you see here, I use NumPy, which is a long name. I'm going to say NumPy as NP. Then down here, instead of NumPy, I'm going to use simply NP. I'm done. So let me just do fun. I use import NumPy as, let me just put my name there. And run it. Isn't it fun? I call NumPy as and then it returns this thing to this. So you can call it anything you want. Why we call NumPy to NP? Because we don't want to have something long when we do the programming. So that's why we just use something very short. Whoever see NP, they know that stands for NumPy. That's the basic beginning of computation with Python. So you can add more code to this. For instance, if you want to add whatever you want to add, you can add. So let me just add another block to it. So I posted the 26 pages of Python. Let's start working with those. In the first one, it's talking about if you have a message and you want to print that message as a text box. I'm going to say my message is equal to today I'm learning Python. And then down here, I'm going to say print message. There you go. Today I'm learning Python. So very basic. I wrote the message and I'm saying that print the message. So whenever we want to use a text, a series of text file or any string, we use double quotation and then it gives. So if I use single quotation, I believe it gives us the same result. I'm going to try that. And give us the same result. So you can use either one quotation, either double quotation. When you want to create a list, like for instance, you have list of different students, list of different things that you want to do. So to create a list, you need to have like a bracket with some division. So let me just create that list for you. So I have a list of, I'm going to say students. Is equal to, then I put the name of the students. Okay, for instance, first name is Ahmed, then you use comma, right? And then comma, you go to the next person's name. Now this is a list that I created. Students, this is the list. I don't see any error when I run it. If I want to get the name of the first student, I'm going to say print students. You see, it's just already giving me the idea. What students I want to print? I want to print the first one, which we call it 0. 0 means the first. This is called 0, 1, and 2. So let's try this. Okay, the first student name is Ahmed. If I want to print the last one, I'm going to I can use 2. It's going to give me the last one, or I can use -1. -1 meaning that bring us the latest entry, which is the latest entry in this case is this. So if I change this to -1, it brings the name of Sam. So I'm going to go a little bit more on that document. You can actually attach to a document. You can append. That's where we attach. I want to talk a little bit about for. If you remember in MATLAB, when we want to have a for loop, let me just create a for. So I'm going to say for x. Okay, MATLAB was like this: x is equal to 1 to 20. If you remember something like this, right? So in Python we do it a little bit different. So we can say x in range, right? In range, then inside the range you can put whatever you want. Like in this case is 1 to 11. I'm going to say 1 to 20. Then underneath that, so you have to have a tab because you have a for. You put a tab so you can have a distance. I'm going to say print x. So in such cases, if you look into here, I did not use an end, right? If you use for, anything which is tabbed, which you actually have an indent on them, so that will be calculated. Let's try this. So it gives me an error on the for. So I want to check for x in range. Oh, I forgot to put a dot in there. That dot is very necessary because it's telling us what to compile, right? Print x. Now it should be okay. And that's actually printed the x, right? So x from 1 to 20, it printed the x. I can say print x times x. And then run it again. So this is actually printing all of those. If I want to add all these things together, right, I put print x to x plus x, but I want to add them all together. So as you can see here, in this case, it says that square append. Append meaning that put them together as one matrix, right? And that's exactly what's happening. So if I want to put all of them as one matrix, I'm going to say, so let me check again. So what I want to do, I want to put, you create a new vector, and the new vector, I add all of those. I guess I'm already in the next page. So yeah, I want to, let me just to go up. I came to page 3. So squares append x to the power of 2. So I'm going to say squares append x to the power of 2. So what is happening is that append, as I told you, is going to add them together. If you create a vector like this, if you have a vector and then you want to add component to that vector, you have the first number and you want to add to it the next number, the number after. So if you have a vector like this, your first number is 2, and then you want to add the next number, which is 3. So this is called append, right? So if this was like this, then I add 1 to it, become 5. Then I add 1, 3. I add, like next time I add 5 to it, become like this. So this is called append. Again, you have a list of students. For instance, you're reviewing a list, and then you want to extract from that list, put them in a new list. So that's what the append does, and then x to the power of 2. If I run this, okay, let me just to see where is the problem. Square apex x times 2. I don't see an error. I guess the problem is this x2. We'll just put x. Oh, that the problem was I had a cap x. I needed to use. Yeah, when you want to use power, you have to use double stars to create the power. Okay, square x times x. Okay, the problem is in the append. Go back to the sheet. Okay, like basically there is a different way to do the same thing. You can say x squared in the range of 1 and 12. Let me just to try this code instead of that. Like here, delete everything here, and then use this. Okay, if I ask it print squares, then it printed the square. If you can see here in this thing, I have all of them together. I have 1, 4, 9, 16, and then all the way to the end. So let me